Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS, and last week was quite the week. Rather than doling things out throughout the year, they try to hit reinvent, fail, and then dump a bunch of stuff all at once. If you worked on a project that I'm not about to mention, because it's one of the, not kidding, 260 items that did not make the cut, well, you should have tried harder or picked a different week. Let's dive in. This episode is sponsored by my own company, Duckbill. Having trouble with your AWS bill? Perhaps it's time to renegotiate a contract with them. Maybe you're just wondering how to predict what's going on in the wide world of AWS. Well, that's where Duckbill comes in to help. Remember, you can't duck the Duckbill bill, which I am reliably informed by my business partner is absolutely not our motto. To learn more, visit duckbillhq.com. Announcing Amazon DocumentDB with MongoDB compatibility version 8. Amazon Basics MongoDB skipping 3 major version numbers to catch up with the real MongoDB 8.0 is a bold move. The 7x query improvement is nice, but let's be honest, this is AWS playing catch up while charging you premium rates to not run actual MongoDB. Your compliance team will love the compatibility asterisk. AWS Lambda adds support for Rust. They finally made Rust official after years of try it, but don't blame us if it breaks. Performance nerds rejoice, but remember that memory safety will not save you from forgetting to set your Lambda timeout and watching your bill explode. Introducing Amazon MWAA serverless, because they finally made Airflow serverless, which sounds great until you realize it only supports their own operators. Want to run custom code? Well, that'll require Lambda, Batch, ECS, or Glue, each with their own separate billing. Also, there's no web UI, because apparently monitoring workflows through CloudWatch logs is simplified operations. Introducing flat rate pricing plans with no overages. AWS discovered that surprising customers with 5-figure bills after a DDoS attack is bad for business. The new flat rate CloudFront plans solve this, starting at free and scaling to $1,000 a month. But here's the catch. Exceed your allowance and performance tanks instead of costs spiking. I'm unsure how that's going to present to customers as you've exceeded your plan and not AWS's CDN suddenly kind of sucks. Maybe try another vendor. Pick your poison carefully. New Amazon Bedrock service tiers help you match AI workload performance with cost. AWS just invented airline pricing for inference. Priority tier costs 25% more for maybe 25% better latency, while flex tier means we'll get to it when we feel like it. Can't wait to debug why my chatbot suddenly got economy class responses because someone forgot to set a parameter. Amazon EC2 P6 B300 instances with NVIDIA Blackwell Ultra GPUs are now available. That's right, NVIDIA's barely announced Blackwell Ultra chips are already on AWS, proving that when there's margin to be made on AI hype, launch timelines become remarkably flexible. One region, capacity blocks only, contact your account manager for pricing. Translation, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. ECR introduces Archive Storage class for rarely accessed container images. Archive storage for container images you'll never use again but can't delete? That's not a feature, that's therapy for your compliance teams. At least a 20-minute restore window gives you time to reconsider your life choices before pulling that cursed image from 2019. New AWS billing transfer for centrally managing AWS billing and costs across multiple organizations. Finally, a feature that lets you centralize the pain of AWS billing across multiple orgs because nothing says enterprise ready like needing a dedicated service just to figure out who owes what. At least your accountant can now cry in one place instead of logging into 17 different management accounts. Network load balancers now support weighted target groups. They added what application load balancers have had for years. But sure, let's call it launching instead of catching up. Now you can stop maintaining that janky Route 53 workaround from 2018. NAT gateways now support regional availability, finally fixing the deploy NAT gateway in every AZ or risk downtime tax with automation that should have existed day one. Now you just pay once for the privilege of egress traffic instead of 3 times. Progress, I guess, although your data transfer and NAT gateway data processing bills remain impressively unchanged. This episode is brought to you by Ona, formerly Gitpod. Are you tired of coding agents pushing your S3 bucket to the wrong AWS account or having them commit your entire downloads folder because they thought your tax documents were part of the code base, all while using privacy policies that basically say that your customer data deserves a nice vacation on random cloud servers? Introducing Ona, where your coding agents run in isolated sandboxes securely within your own VPC. Ona lets you run agents at scale with workflows, bulk open requests that finally tackle that Java migration that you started in 2019, or automatically fix CVEs when your scans find them. Ona also supports private AI models through Amazon Bedrock that your corporate overlords might even approve of. Head to Ona, that's ONA.com, and get $200 of free credits using the code Screaming in the Cloud, because your laptop wasn't designed to babysit over-caffeinated rogue coding agents with root access. Secrets Manager announces managed external secrets. Automated rotation for SaaS secrets, which is generally useful. Of course, they launch with exactly 3 partners because nothing says fully baked feature like supporting 0.001% of the SaaS ecosystem. Your Okta and GitHub tokens are still on you, apparently. Accelerate infrastructure development with CloudFormation intelligent authoring in IDEs. IDE tooling that should have existed a decade ago, right as everyone's finally migrating to Terraform or OpenTofu. The drift detection is legitimately useful because there's nothing quite like discovering your coworker's been clicking around the console at 2 a.m. Cost Optimization Hub introduces cost efficiency metric to measure and track cloud cost efficiency. AWS offers a metric that tells you how badly you're overspending on their platform. It's like your doctor creating a scale that measures how much you're ignoring their advice, except this one refreshes daily to maximize guilt. Lambda announces new tenant isolation mode to simplify building tenant-aware applications. A way to avoid, oops, we accidentally leaked customer A's data to customer B headline that keeps SaaS founders awake at night. Of course, it comes with a pricing page because AWS knows desperation when they see it. Introducing 18-month forecasting and explainable AI insights in AWS Cost Explorer. This is one of the things we'll be covering in one of my reInvent talks in 2 weeks, COP 203. There will be jokes and, as of this recording, a nearly 4.5-minute crash-out monologue rant. Simplified developer access to AWS with AWS Login. Ooh, it's like a shitty first-party version of Granted.dev. So soon? DynamoDB now supports multi-attribute composite keys and global secondary indexes, finally admitting that forcing developers to manually concatenate strings into fake composite keys was bad design. This should have shipped in 2012, but at least they're not making you jump through hoops in code anymore to fix their homework. Simplify access to external services using IAM Outbound Identity Federation. Yay, another way to authenticate AWS against non-AWS things. This is what, 6 now? Improve API discoverability with the new API Gateway Portal. They finally noticed that making developers cobble together their own API documentation portals was bad for business. This fully managed solution mostly just wraps existing AWS services you're already using and paying for, Cognito, CloudWatch, RAM, into a prettier package with its own overloading of industry terms of art. Step Functions enhances local testing with Test State API. Finally, a way to test step functions without burning through API calls like a venture-backed startup at a WeWork happy hour. The mock validation feature is genuinely useful, but I am skeptical about how well those contract checks will age as AWS services evolve faster than your documentation can keep up. CloudFront announces 3 new CloudFront Functions capabilities. 3 genuinely useful features at no extra charge? Did somebody accidentally approve this without running it past the pricing committee? The SNI override alone saves multi-tenant nightmares, though I'm sure they'll find some creative way to monetize your increased function execution time. And finally, on a down note, RecycleBin adds support for EBS volumes. They're charging you full EBS rates to keep deleted volumes in limbo. Call it a RecycleBin if you want, but it's really just pay us to not delete your data immediately. At least snapshots were cheaper. And that's what happened last week in AWS. This week is a short week due to the holiday, and then we're in reInvent land, which is the exact opposite of a holiday. Hopefully I'll see you there. If you're around, be sure to come by Atomic Liquors at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night until they throw us out. Have fun, make good choices, and if you're not in Las Vegas, I envy you.